Hey, hi everyone. Happy Tuesday. Hope you're having a great day. If you don't know who I am, my name is Coach Kayla. I'm a plant-based dietitian, nutrition, and run coach. And today we're going to be talking about how to eat enough vitamin D and calcium as a plant-based runner. So, a couple of housekeeping and a couple things real quick before we get started is most of you, if you've been following me for a while or in my Facebook group, you may know that I've been going live for quite some time on Wednesdays. So there is a change that is going to happen. So that is starting this week. Starting today, I will be going live Tuesday evenings at 6 or 7 o'clock Eastern time. And yeah, that is what will be happening. We will be doing Tuesdays, and it will be called as well Tips Tuesdays with Coach Kayla. So, plant based and running tips is what we'll be talking about. Every Tuesday, I go live at 6 or 7 o'clock Eastern time in the evenings on my Facebook group and my Facebook page, as well as YouTube Live. So if you are not on Facebook as well, I do go live in YouTube in order for anybody that doesn't have Facebook. So if you do have any friends, family, or anybody you know that doesn't have Facebook that you would think that would benefit from being a part of this group and seeing some of my lives, I will be doing these lives through YouTube as well. And also, as a reminder as well, I do have a podcast called the Plant-Based Performance Podcast, so definitely check that out as well if you'd like to take me out on your runs or on your walks, or even just listen to the episodes as well on the way to work. You can also listen there as well. So a lot of the podcast episode as well will be very similar, if not the same kind of information that I will be doing live as well. So basically, I'm going to be taking most of these live trainings and put them on the podcast. So either way, just gives you different ways that you can get the information. Either if you like watching videos, if you like YouTube, or you prefer podcasts. And then also as well, one more thing as well is this will also be on my blog as well. So if you would rather have that transcripted and like to read, that's also another way that you can check out this information as well. So with all that said, thank you for joining me tonight. As I said, we're going to be talking about how to eat enough vitamin D and calcium as a plant-based runner. So today I wanted to talk about this, and I almost didn't go live today, and it was going to actually start next week. But I decided that I did want to start this week because I guess last week was the first week of June, huh? But anyways, June is dairy month. So I wanted to really focus on and talk about dairy, but also, is dairy important? Like why it's okay to be plant-based, and also is it okay as an athlete to not eat dairy? Can you get enough vitamin D and calcium? Because those are usually the biggest nutrient concerns for especially athletes, is getting enough vitamin D and calcium. And it's mostly known as well that dairy is one of our main sources for those nutrients, but I kind of want to talk about that a little bit, as well as talk about, why it's important to have enough vitamin D and calcium, specifically, as an endurance athlete, why that's important. Give you guys some tips and, foods that you can eat more and how to get more vitamin D and calcium in your diet as well. And any questions? We'll also answer any questions that you guys have as well. So why is vitamin D and calcium important for us? So vitamin D and calcium is important for bone health, and that's for anybody. But specifically for endurance athletes, it's important, especially for runners as well, is because running is a bone strengthening activity. There's a lot of pressure, right, on our bones, on our joints. So it's important that we get enough vitamin D and calcium to prevent stress fractures. Now, does that mean that we need to be eating dairy in order to get vitamin D and calcium? Absolutely not. There is a lot of research out there now that tells us that we can get calcium, and I'll just say calcium because I'll talk about vitamin D in a minute here, that we can get calcium from other foods, and dairy actually has more negative consequences for a lot of people. So one of the things is with dairy is that most people are lactose intolerant. I believe I just looked this up today. Let's see if I can remember. 30 to 50 million Americans are lactose intolerant. That means that those people have some GI distress or have difficulty digesting the enzyme lactase. Now there's lactase milk, but there's a lot of other choices for milk alternatives. So there is a possibility that you can choose a milk alternative. Now, that said, that doesn't mean that that is going to have vitamin D and calcium, but some milk alternatives are fortified with vitamin D and calcium. Orange juice is also one that's also fortified with vitamin D and calcium. So that's one that I recommend to a lot of people as well, is if you like orange juice. And, of course, some people are concerned with that sugar that's in the orange juice, especially if it's not freshly squeezed, but it can help to get that vitamin D and calcium. So the biggest thing, biggest importance of getting vitamin D, calcium in your diet is for bone health. So that's the biggest thing, and to just stay healthy so you don't get any bone fractures, especially with running. Now, vitamin D and calcium, as I said, we can get these from other foods, although you may want to supplement. So some people do. In some cases, it is important to supplement. So the specific audience that I always, most likely always recommend some kind of supplementation is female athletes, as well as, female young athletes. So like collegiate runners, young athletes, as well as older females. So 50 and above, it's a good idea to also supplement just based on your age, but also definitely because you're a runner as well. And then, and I don't even think I said this, but if you are on, say hi, let me know you're on. Sorry about that. I don't even think I forgot to do that. I am going live using StreamYard as well, so make sure I can see your name. Wendy just popped on real quick and said that her son became lactose intolerant at 15, likely as part of puberty. So that's really interesting that, he wasn't born with it. So that does happen with people. Some people aren't born with lactose intolerance, but somehow they do develop it. So it is very interesting. Another thing that I didn't talk about as well, to a lot of the negative consequences of dairy, is it is inflammatory. So it can cause swelling and inflammation in your body. So that's usually not really good for your joints, typically, especially if you're a runner as well. And also, that, as I said, a lot of people are lactose intolerant. So a lot of times we experience this GI distress, and that's usually not a good thing or something that you want to happen while you run. So those are some other things as well. With dairy, dairy has also been known to contribute to allergies. So a lot of different things. And I know it is just dairy. It could be because dairy, unfortunately, there's antibiotics in it, and just the way it's processed, it could, what I'm talking about is milk. So that could be why those things are happening, but unfortunately, that's just what it is. So most people, just choose to not have dairy, or if you go plant-based or vegan, you may want to limit your dairy. So now I want to talk about what are some foods that you can eat, or what are things you can do to get vitamin D and calcium. So we'll talk about calcium first. So calcium. Some of the foods that are rich in calcium that are plant-based are leafy greens, like our kale, our collard greens, our turnip greens, our mustard greens. Tofu, tempeh, blackstrap molasses, soybeans, soy nuts, dried figs, chia seeds, broccoli, navy beans, black beans, almonds, and flax seeds. These all have between 50 to 300 milligrams of calcium per serving. So there is a lot of plant-based sources that have calcium, which is really great. Unfortunately, I do see a lot of people struggling to get calcium. So I do think you need to eat a lot more than probably, you could just eat, a piece of cheese or something and it would give you a lot more calcium. So we do need to be more mindful and making sure that we are eating enough of those foods to get the calcium that we need. Recommendations of calcium also vary a little bit between age. So the younger you are, especially those groups that I mentioned before, need more calcium. So, and then also, as I mentioned, taking supplements may also be a good idea, especially vitamin D. Now, vitamin D, you can. Well, I should say there are very few foods that you can actually get a vitamin D. So vitamin D you do mostly get from dairy in your diet. The best source of vitamin D that we can possibly get is the sun. But I found since living in Florida that I have been working with people that even though they're in Florida and we get a lot of sun, they're still low in vitamin D, which I think is very interesting. I haven't quite figured out why that is. But, some things too with that is sunscreen. You do want to be outside between, for at least 10 to 20 minutes, which you shouldn't, your skin shouldn't burn or anything. Without sunscreen in order to really absorb that vitamin D. So that's one thing to make sure to remember. Some foods that you can eat that do have vitamin D are usually fortified, like orange juice I mentioned is also fortified with vitamin D, and also mushrooms. Mushrooms kind of indirectly because they may be exposed to UV radiation, which is sunlight. So really the vitamin D comes from the sun, but you can get some vitamin D from the mushrooms. But it does depend on the brand of mushroom, if UV radiation was even used. How do you know? You really don't know. So it's not really the best source, but those are really the only two really sources of vitamin D. There is a less or I shouldn't say the only, there could be other things, other foods that may be fortified. So I have found like plant-based milks, I think I mentioned, milk alternatives usually do have fortified vitamin D as well. And then my last tip was to get at least 10 to 20 minutes of sun exposure without sunscreen, which I already talked about. Okay. Awesome. So I already talked about all of those. And what else did I want to talk about? So we talked about foods. We talked about the importance of vitamin D and calcium. And we talked a little bit about dairy. So am I forgetting anything? Or does anyone have any questions for me? So yeah, hopefully that gives you a good summary of kind of, the information about dairy, because I get those questions a lot, and just making sure getting enough vitamin D and calcium. The best advice and suggestion I can give you if you are concerned with calcium or vitamin D or considering to take a supplement, it is a good idea to talk to a registered dietitian, especially somebody that is specialized in plant-based nutrition. Even better if they work with runners or with sports nutrition. But it is a good idea to see a professional to just, make sure that it's okay. Supplements are okay to take with the medications if you're on any medications and things like that. And also if you need any recommendation, I am welcome, or you're welcome to message me as well if you would like a recommendation on the vitamin D and calcium that I use. Let's see. So I think that is everything that I wanted to talk about. So does anybody have any questions? Doesn't look like I have too many people live, but you could also watch this on replay if you are watching this on replay as well below, which I should have said before, but that's okay. Make sure to comment below replay to let me know you did watch this as well. So I hope I talked about everything that I wanted to today. But as I said, if you do have any questions at all about dairy, vitamin D, calcium, let me know. I am here to help you guys. I am a resource for you. So if there's any questions or anything that you have about this topic, feel free to reach out to me. And then, as I said as well in the beginning of this video, I will be going live now every Tuesday evening. So you can catch me then. I will schedule it ahead of time so you know what the topic is. Also, if you can give me any questions that you have as well on the topic ahead of time, that would be awesome as well. Even if you can't make it live, if you do have questions about a certain topic that I'm going live on, make sure to comment your question or send your question to me so I know that I have it. So other than that, I don't think I have any other announcements this week, but I do want to congratulate as well a lot of people, I believe, a lot of winners in the Facebook group completed events this weekend or last weekend. So I will be shouting all of them out because you guys are awesome. You are winners. You were all winners. But we had some amazing performances. So congratulate to all of you. Congratulations to all of you that, competed in an event over the weekend. And I'm just so proud of all of you and for really just being consistent and really wanting to better yourself and better your health. And I know it's not an easy task. It is not hard. I am struggling right with you on days because we all have lives and we all struggle with our mindset and all of that stuff. So I just want to send a big congratulations to everybody and just keep going, keep doing what you're doing. Do your research, use this group to the best of your advantage. And if there's any questions that you have, don't hesitate to reach out. All right. Awesome. Well, happy Tuesday. And I'll see you guys all again, same time next week. Bye.